Welcome to the Deep Dive. Today, learner, I want you to imagine for a second that basically everything you've been taught to value in your life is actually a highly sophisticated mechanism designed to capture you.
Right, which is quite the opener.
Yeah. I mean, what if all the things we think of as the foundational pillars of a good, meaningful life, getting married, building a community, engaging in your country's political system, or even just feeling a deep sense of patriotism, what if those are actually perfectly designed traps?
It is a fundamentally unsettling question because, well, it challenges the very fabric of how we organize human society.
Exactly.
This premise basically suggests that our deepest connections, the things that make us feel secure, are actually in reality our deepest vulnerabilities.
Okay, let's unpack this. We are pulling from a really fascinating, slightly mind-bending philosophical essay today. It's from August 2006, and it's titled Escaping the Traps of Life, the Chapter of Wisdom, Article 54.
Right, written by an author known as Deform Buddha.
Yeah, so our mission for this deep dive is to explore this radical perspective on how everyday institutions function as invisible prisons. We'll look at how our own human desires act as bait. And finally, we'll walk through the author's manual, I guess you'd call it, for achieving true freedom through absolute detachment.
And to really grasp the gravity of this argument, we first have to understand the universe this author is operating in.
Okay, set the stage for us.
Well, it's not just a social critique, right? It's a cosmic one. The essay establishes this cosmological premise where the universe contains 36 eight-diagram arrays.
Which, I mean, sounds incredibly dense, but let's translate that. Think of the universe not just as empty space, but as a massive, multi-dimensional cosmic puzzle box.
Yeah, that's a good way to put it.
Like an architecture of reality made up of these 36 distinct realms or structural grids.
Precisely. And within this vast cosmic structure, Deform Buddha points out something very interesting about paradise. You see, in Buddhism, there is often talk of the Western Pure Land.
Right, also known as the Elysium world, which is supposed to be this ultimate destination of bliss.
Exactly. But this philosophy argues that the Elysium world isn't just in the West, it actually exists in all directions, east, south, north.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, the text claims it is literally all around us at this very moment.
Okay, so if paradise is everywhere, in all directions, why aren't we experiencing it? I mean, why aren't you and I living in Elysium right now?
Well, the author's answer is brutally simple. We are hopelessly, continually caught in the pitfalls of life.
So these traps act as literal prisons for our consciousness.
Right. And this requires us to understand the physics of how these traps inflict pain. There is a really compelling argument here that human suffering is entirely dictated by proximity and involvement.
Ah, okay.
Deform Buddha theorizes that we only truly suffer when we are actively caught inside a situation. If we are on the outside looking in, the pain simply doesn't touch us.
The essay uses a very relatable example to illustrate this, watching a war movie. When you sit down in a theater and watch a dramatic battle on screen, it evokes an emotional response.
Sure, you feel something.
Right, but you don't feel true visceral terror. And why? Because the screen acts as a barrier. Your own life isn't on the line.
Exactly. And the philosophy takes this from movies to real-world tragedies, bringing up the devastating South Asian tsunami.
That's a heavy shift.
It is, but it points out a harsh, undeniable truth. The people directly affected by the tsunami suffered unimaginably. But for those who were not involved, the pain wasn't nearly as intense.
Right.
In fact, if you lived on the other side of the planet and simply didn't turn on the news, the deaths of hundreds of thousands of people wouldn't cause you a single moment of distress.
Wow, and it scales down to the micro level, too. Think about two neighbors having a vicious, screaming fight on their front lawn.
Oh yeah, we've all seen that.
To them, it feels like a matter of life and death. Their heart rates are up, they're absolutely furious. But to you, standing at your kitchen window next door, you might just find it annoying.
Right, you aren't fundamentally distressed because you aren't caught in their specific life trap.
It makes me think of being a massive sports fan.
Yeah.
If your favorite team is playing in the championship finals, every single pass, every single mistake is agonizing. A loss can ruin your entire week.
Oh, absolutely.
But if you're watching a game between two random teams you have absolutely no connection to, it's just pure entertainment. You don't suffer when one of them loses. But wait, is the author saying ignorance is bliss? Or is it something deeper about emotional entanglement?
Well, what's fascinating here is that this isn't really advocating for putting your head in the sand. Deformed Buddha is trying to define the exact, precise mechanics of what a trap is.
Okay, so how do they define it?
A trap is defined solely by its ability to hold you. It only hurts the creature caught inside its jaws. If you are outside the jaws, it's just a harmless piece of metal on the ground.
The suffering is a direct measurement of how deeply you have allowed yourself to become entangled.
Which naturally introduces the next puzzle piece. If distance protects us and involvement is what causes all our suffering, why do we constantly close that distance?
Yeah, why do we voluntarily keep walking into the jaws of the trap?
And this brings a really vivid metaphor into play, the concept of sweetness.
Ah, right. Hunters don't just put an empty snare in the woods and hope a bear wanders into it. They scatter fragrant food around it.
Exactly. Humans use sweet things as bait to catch fish. The essay argues that human beings are lured into life's prisons in the exact same way.
It reminds me of the ultimate sweetness trap deciding to adopt a puppy.
Oh, that is a perfect modern translation of this concept.
Right. You see this adorable, clumsy ball of fluff. Your brain floods with dopamine. You take it home. But what happens next?
The reality sets in.
Suddenly, you can't take spontaneous weekend trips anymore. You are waking up at 3 in the morning to stand in the freezing rain while it goes to the bathroom. Your carpets are ruined.
You surrendered a massive chunk of your personal autonomy in exchange for the sweetness of those puppy dog eyes.
Exactly.
Well, Deiform Buddha applies that exact same psychological vulnerability to the most revered pillars of human society. The text actually uses a rhythmic sequence of questions. Why do people marry?
Because of the sweetness.
Right. Why do they join political parties? Because of the sweetness. Even celestial beings are said to descend to the human world simply because they are tempted by this bait. The sweetness blinds us to the snare.
Let's break down the specific institutions the essay categorizes as traps, starting with military service and nations themselves. Becoming a soldier strips your autonomy.
It does. The author uses the example of a soldier being sent to Iraq, becoming part of a deadly conflict they cannot escape once the war starts.
They also mention the historical conflicts between Israel and Hezbollah in Lebanon. And just to be absolutely clear to you listening, we are purely looking at this through the author's impartial lens.
Yes, we should explicitly state that. We take absolutely no political side on these historical conflicts.
Right, this philosophy doesn't take sides on geopolitical conflicts. It simply observes the mechanics. If you are a citizen of a nation, you are inevitably forced to contribute your labor or your life to its conflicts. The nation binds you to its fate.
And it brings that same mechanical logic right into your living room. Marriage is explicitly categorized as a trap.
Wow, okay.
Yeah, once you enter it, the essay argues you are bound by endless household responsibilities, financial intertwining, and emotional conflict, ultimately losing your peace.
And political parties are no different, right?
Exactly. Engaging in party politics means surrendering your individual voice to group power struggles. If the group makes a catastrophic mistake, you shoulder the collective blame.
Religion gets the exact same treatment.
Yeah.
As a believer, you are bound to repetitive moral teachings, endless activities, and in extreme historical cases, individuals are compelled by their religious traps to carry out deadly missions.
There is a vital psychological component discussed here too, often called the trapdoor effect.
The idea that these institutions are incredibly easy to enter, but brutally hard to leave.
Right. The entrance is painted with sweetness, but once inside, the mechanism shifts. You aren't just held by physical chains, you are held by guilt, by sunk costs, by societal expectations.
The essay compares it to climbing a mountain. It's easy to scramble up, but incredibly dangerous to navigate back down.
Or starting a business. It's so easy to sign the paperwork and open the doors. It is agonizing to untangle the liabilities, pay off the debts, and close it down.
The author actually introduces a theological element to explain why the world is built this way. They suggest that Satan specifically digs these everyday traps.
Which is quite the claim.
Right. The idea is that everyone naturally wants to ascend to heaven, but the universe requires a certain balance of beings to remain human or animal. So the sweetness is scattered to ensnare confused individuals, draining their energy so they fail to reach higher spiritual planes.
I know sounds extreme. Comparing falling in love or voting in a democratic election to a bear trap set by Satan is jarring.
Wait, so falling in love or voting in an election is compared to an animal stepping in a bear trap. Isn't community a basic human need?
Well, yes. Connection is a fundamental survival mechanism. But to understand this philosophy's harshness, you have to understand its ultimate value system.
Which is what?
For deformed Buddha, the highest possible good is total, uncompromised personal autonomy. Anything that chips away at your freedom, no matter how comforting it tastes, is a mechanism of control.
Okay, so since everything from your household chores to your home planet is a trap, and the essay even points out that people worry about ecological crises because we're physically bound to Earth, how does the author suggest we actually get out?
The philosophy offers a spectrum of escapes, ranging from the highly physical to the deeply mystical.
Right. On the physical side, it observes people migrating from impoverished nations to developed ones to escape economic constraints, or fugitives running to remote, isolated places.
The essay uses a wonderful phrase, noting they run to where the sky is high and the emperor is far away.
I love that. It's the pursuit of physical distance from authority. But physical distance has limits, which is why the author shares their own personal dream trick.
Yes, the invisibility trick.
They claim that in their dreams, when they sense danger, they have the ability to turn completely invisible. They hide so effectively that even deity celestial beings cannot find them.
And that dream trick of invisibility is really a metaphor for the ideal waking state. It's advocating for what we could call the movie perspective.
How does that work?
Well, if you observe families from outside the realm of marriage, you won't be troubled by their arguments. If you view national conflicts from outside the country, it is exactly like watching a movie. They suggest observing the Earth from what they call the 1,000-year world.
Let's define that for the listener. The 1,000-year world acts as a cosmic zoom out. Imagine a vantage point, perhaps a mental state or a literal higher dimension, where you are looking at Earth on a timescale of millennia.
Right. From that extreme distance, today's political drama or ecological crisis is just a fleeting speck of dust. By maintaining that absolute distance, you attain a blissful heart.
But wait, I have to raise the obvious moral objection here. This sounds incredibly cold.
It definitely can seem that way.
If everyone just detached, turned invisible, and watched the world suffering from a cosmic balcony who helps people, isn't this just lacking compassion?
Deformed Buddha actually anticipates that exact critique and delivers a rebuttal that is one of the most combative parts of the text.
Oh, really?
Yeah, they turn the accusation around and accuse the reader of profound hypocrisy. They essentially say, you think I'm lacking compassion, look at your own life.
Ouch.
The essay forces the reader to acknowledge their selective empathy. It points out that every single day, countless livestock and poultry are slaughtered for food. Plants and insects die by the millions.
People pass away in hospitals or in traffic accidents constantly.
Exactly. Yet what do? You sit down, you eat your dinner, and you laugh with your friends. You arbitrarily draw a line around what suffering you care about so you can keep functioning.
Ah, I see. The philosophy argues you're already practicing this detachment, you just refuse to admit it. The author brings in what they call the evolutionary program of the Tao, right?
Yes. Think of the Tao in this context as nature's brutal, unsentimental operating system. It is a massive cycle of life, death, and consumption that we simply cannot pause.
And humans have an arrogant assumption that we can save everything. But trying to stop the cogs of the Tao from turning is exactly what crushes you.
So the primary directive, therefore, must be to save oneself first.
It's the airplane oxygen mask rule. Every time you fly, the flight attendant reminds you to secure your own mask before assisting others. You can't help the person next to you if you're suffocating.
That's exactly it. The text makes the exact same point. Can a severely impoverished person provide meaningful financial assistance to a whole community? No.
Can a person currently locked inside a prison cell help their fellow inmates stage a breakout? Absolutely not.
Right. You have to be on the outside, possessing resources and freedom to have any agency at all. If you are caught in the trap, you are entirely useless.
But escaping to the 1,000-year world or turning invisible isn't really practical for the listener. So what is the actionable advice for someone currently stuck in these traps?
If we connect this to the bigger picture, we arrive at the most crucial piece of the puzzle. Because, yeah, practically speaking, you listening to this probably can't immigrate to the 1,000-year world.
We can't actually turn invisible to hide from our mortgages or our jobs. So what's the twist?
The revelation at the end of the essay is brilliant. You do not actually have to physically run away to escape the trap. The physical escape is secondary.
More.
The text explicitly allows you to infiltrate the enemy's ranks. You can disguise yourself as an ordinary person. You can go to the office. You can raise your kids. You can pay your taxes.
But how do you do that without suffering?
The absolute requirement is that the escape must happen mentally first. It is about severe compartmentalization.
Okay, so you wash the dishes, but you don't tether your soul's worth to the concept of the household. You vote, but you don't let the political party become your identity.
Think of it like an actor on a stage. The actor cries, yells, and fights during the play. They hit all their marks, but internally, they know they are not the character.
Right, when the curtain falls, they take off the costume and go home.
That is how Deiform Buddha suggests we treat our societal roles. Those who are already physically trapped must awaken their minds. Once you achieve that internal distance, the physical circumstances lose their power over you.
So to translate this for the listener, as long as your spirit is awake and your heart is clear, you are free. It doesn't matter if you are inside or outside of the family, party, religion, or country.
The trap relies almost entirely on your emotional entanglement to keep you confined.
The moment you detach your core identity from the institution, the jaws of the trap open. It ceases to be a prison, even if you are still standing right in the middle of it.
It moves liberation from a geographic requirement to an entirely internal state of being. You can participate in the world without being consumed by it.
It's a massive shift in perspective. Let's take a step back and recap the journey of this deep dive.
It's been quite a ride.
We started with the cosmic architecture, the 36 8-diagram arrays, and the realization that the Elysium world is all around us, obscured only by our own entanglement.
We explored the physics of suffering, realizing that pain requires proximity.
Right, and we identified the sweetness, the alluring bait that tricks us into surrendering our autonomy to nations, marriages, and ideologies.
We grappled with the controversial defense of detachment, acknowledging the Tao's and sentimental operating system.
And finally, we arrived at the mental jailbreak, the realization that an awake spirit can render any physical prison obsolete.
It leaves us with a razor-sharp lens through which to examine our own commitments. But before we go, I want to leave you with a final provocative thought to mull over, building on this source material.
Ooh, I like where this is going.
We started out talking about the pillars of a good life acting as traps, right? And the warning that sweetness is the bait that lures us in.
Yeah, the puppy dog eyes, the romance, all of it.
But this forces an incredibly important question about the ultimate endgame of this philosophy. If we successfully detach from absolutely everything to avoid being caught,
Wait, like if we reject all the sweetness of love, of belonging, and of community just to ensure our total autonomy.
exactly. Do we actually reach that Elysium world? Or by avoiding every single trap in the forest, do we just end up locking ourselves inside a completely different kind of prison, an entirely empty one of our own making?
Wow, the ultimate paradox of absolute freedom.
Something to think about.
Thank you for joining us on this deep dive, learner. Keep examining the sweetness you're chasing, keep checking the ground you're walking on, and most importantly, keep questioning the world around you.